사실 좀 더 좋은 대진을 바랬지만 좀 저희 팀한테는 가장 안 좋은 대진물인 것 같아요.
저희가 RNG를 뽑았을 때 사실 가장 원하던 팀은 아니었는데 그냥 RNG구나, 재밌겠다.
And SKT will clean up what kills they can and secure #1 in their group.
RNG looking for more. That's a triple kill. That's a shutdown as MLXG picks it up.
저희가 8강은 그냥 당연히 진출해야 된다고 생각하고 와서 그냥 이제부터 시작이라고 생각합니다.
뭐 만약에 SK를 이긴다면 우승했다라고 봐야죠. 뭐 그리고 자신감도 하늘을 찔 것 같아요.
That's a double kill for Uzi. Double lift in trouble. Triple kill for Uzi.
FLICKR looking to go in. Huge three-man stun at SKT. A beautifully orchestrated play.
Royal never give up. Look to set their sights on the Nexus. Royal advance to Chicago.
And SKT clean up what kills they can and secure #1 in their group.
Hello and welcome to the historic Chicago Theater, where quarterfinal action continues here at the 2016 League of Legends World Championship. Tonight, two-time champions SK Telecom T1 continue their title defense against Royal Never Give Up. And of course, you can see that we have packed this theater full of praised fans who are looking for a competitive series between these two top squads. Now, earlier this afternoon, SK Telecom made their way inside. They'll be on stage shortly to continue defending their title, and you can see Royal Never Give Up here also making their arrival with their semifinal hopes on the line. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm James Dash Patterson alongside Mitch Krepo-Vorspels, Chris Papa Smithy Smith, and Joshua Jat Leesman. Gentlemen, a dominating 3-0 performance out of Samsung Galaxy last night, but we have returned again, hoping for more than 3.
Yes, Samsung thought to get rid of all the U.S. teams and worlds. At least they haven't gotten rid of all the U.S. casters.
That's
which I'm
right.
happy about.
And
so
a representation going
we got this
strong
going
here.
on.
We're trying.
or doing the best we absolutely can. All right, well, along with our casting team, there are a plethora of international broadcasters helping us bring Worlds to a truly global audience in over 15 languages. You're getting a look at our partners from the League of Legends Continental League, and then, of course, Brazil's CB LOL and the Korean team from OGN. Before we get into anything else, though, it's time to send it down to the stage to introduce the quarterfinalists doing battle here tonight.
Thank you very much, Dash. Tonight, one of our quarterfinalists will claim their spot in New York City. Please join me in welcoming from China's LPL, Royal Never Give Up. In the top lane, Looper. Jungling, MLXG. In the mid lane, Xiaohu. At 80 carry, Uzi. Supporting, Mata. Their sub at 80 carry, Whoosh. And the LPL's Royal Never Give Up, Coach Fly. Ladies and gentlemen, Royal Never Give Up. Now, let's meet their opponents for tonight's quarterfinals. From Korea's LCK, the reigning world champions, SK Telecom T1. In the top lane, Duke. In the jungle, Bengi. At mid lane, FLICKR. At AD carry, Bang. At support, Wolf. Their sub at the jungle position, Blank. And the coach for SK Telecom T1, Coma. Ladies and gentlemen, SK Telecom T1.
So much top-tier talent on one stage there. It's honestly sad to think that we're going to be saying goodbye to one of these teams by the end of the evening, but that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, two things there. One, it must suck walking up next to FLICKR, because he's always going to get a louder cheer than you, and I love that the crowd was at least cheering for both teams.
Yeah, and you really realize during the introductions there how many of the best League of Legends players we've ever seen are going to be playing against each other today.
It's a really hype matchup. At the end of the day, this is a rematch of the MSI semifinal as well. A lot of history between these players, a lot of World Finals appearances at least as well, so a lot to be excited for.
And of course, this is following our first quarterfinal that happened yesterday, where Samsung Galaxy took their next step towards the Summoners Cup, defeating Cloud9 and qualifying for the semifinals in New York City.
Yeah, and we had questions about Samsung all year really, whether they're going to make it to Worlds, whether they could perform in their group, whether or not they could deal with being favorites instead of underdogs. Resoundingly, they've answered every single one of those questions because yesterday was dominant.
Yes. I mean, you looked at the research, right? You looked at, okay, this is the reason why Samsung should be in control of this match, but you never knew. There's such a small sample size, especially with Core JJ, that things can always go different under the lights in the quarterfinals here in Chicago, but it was Samsung very much getting over whatever kind of mental games there were and putting Cloud9 away.
Yeah, and just superb consistency from Samsung yesterday. The way they could close out games, it felt like they were never under pressure when they were playing. No erratic decisions, take it calm and collected. They didn't fall far behind in the early game, especially game 2, that one team fight that won it all with the cannon flank. It just showed that they were just a single level above Cloud9.
And in specific, we've got to talk about Kuve in that top lane, because we had some question marks around him, and looking at Impact as one of the top performers for C9, and Kuve dealt with it phenomenally.
That guy just was so fun to watch. The way he stopped teleports, he already showed that he could perform on mages, you know, on the cannon rumble, the echo, but then he whipped out the poppy and he was stopping teleports left and right, flash E-ing people into walls. Super satisfying to watch.
Exactly, one of the best performances we've seen from him, but also we talked so much about Crown on the Samsung team. Yesterday we saw so many other individuals shine. Core JJ's support was incredibly clutch in so many situations. Even their AD carry was so successful. Why am I blanking on the name all the second? Ruler was so dominant in that Caitlyn game where he was able to flash into the end of some of those team fights. Everyone on Samsung stepped up.
Even in lane, like Ruler was consistently walking up. Once he saw the skill shot kind of go left or behind him, he was like, I'm just going to walk in your face and trade. And these guys were known as playing a sustained bot lane, not the best players, but they really outperformed.
All right, well, that's all behind us, though. Now it's time to turn to tonight's series. Royals support Mata claimed that his club could take down the defending champs if they had Uzi. Well, gentlemen, now they do.
They do have Uzi. He also said that many months ago when the rest of his team was playing very well. And since then, World Never Give Up has shown some inconsistencies. Yes, Uzi has looked good with Mata in some situations, but Xiaohu, MLXG, Looper aren't playing at the level they necessarily were in the spring, and it doesn't seem like they've been able to put it all together.
Yeah, and that's obviously because they replaced Whoosh with Uzi, but that changed an entirely different, it makes a dynamic different in the team. You know, when you have such a player like Uzi who requires a lot of resources, then can put out a lot of damage, it means there's less resources going to mid and potentially jungle, and I think that is a change that RNG still is struggling with.
I mean, the gold has to come from somewhere, right? It has to be taken away. You can't just add more gold. It's a percentage. He takes that big percentage of the team's gold, but one person who can actually hold their head high, especially for the big win that kind of defined Royal Never Give Up's tournament, that first win over TSM, is Mata. His playmaking in that first game, especially on the Alistair, you know, in a kind of a difficult spot. Last picked Alistair, not a great laning choice, took over the game though, and was the big reason they came up trumps over TSM.
And it also is interesting though, because Mata played Alistair one game in the group stage. He also had multiple Nami games, and he's trying to win in a variety of ways. And I think RNG as a whole, even though they have played around Uzi, need to kind of find their game if they want to do well against SKT here, and figure out how they can more play around Xiaohu and MLXG, like they did in these TSM games when they were able to kind of keep Bjergsen's laning phase from roaming to the rest of the map.
That's actually what made me a little bit of an RNG fanboy back in early spring, middle of spring, because they had this jungle mid laner synergy that was so satisfying to watch. They made kills where I couldn't even see the possibility of it being there with MLXG and Xiaohu, and right now they have tournament-defining players in a Mata and in an Uzi, but I feel they kind of put the crux of what RNG was in the shadows with that jungle support synergy.
I mean, ironically, it was the jungle support synergy that got them over the line over TSM in that second match that basically qualified them for this stage. Specifically, it was the Aurelion Soul roaming around with MLXG support, making plays, getting that triple kill for Uzi, and they looked in control from there.
Yeah, and we always talk about RNG's ceiling and how good they could be, but it doesn't really matter how high your ceiling is if you can never reach it. If you don't have a ladder to actually get up there and paint, it's just going to be this ugly, decaying ceiling all the time. And they haven't been able to reach that ceiling because ever since Uzi came to that team, it's been few and far between the games where they can actually have their lanes win and have the strong AD carry in team fights.
And while we talk about the inconsistency and some of the struggles of RNG, let's go ahead and contrast that with SK Telecom, because here they have walked into this tournament, maybe not the favorites to begin with, but are much more looking like that as the tournament's gone on.
I mean, the 3-0 lets you know, especially in week 2, SKT hit high gear. They're also playing styles that aren't necessarily sin around the tournament. They're going for these Jace top. They're very happy to blind pick Jace on blue, go with no tank, avoid any of those big engages like we saw Cloud9 fall to yesterday with the Kennen flank, for example. They're taking a risk. It's a comp that no one else is pulling out, and it's a comp that SKT is playing uniquely well.
And that's SKT for you. They have the best season spacing out of all these teams. You know, ramping it up straight at Worlds, you know, dropping a few games, intentionally not winning the finals. You know, it's all a ruse to just perform at Worlds. Now, I think they're great. I think they definitely stepped up week 2. I was impressed by Wolf. His ability to zone people out in fights with that Zyra 2 was just so satisfying to watch. SKT much better in week 2.
And for me, SKT, while they have played with a variety of styles, are the best disengaged team in the world. You consistently see them play with somewhat squishy team compositions, unlike this one where they have FLICKR on a hard initiator, but they are able to win fights even when they don't seem like they have a composition that is set to go in team fight, because they play with so much discipline and so much patience. When they do need to disengage, everyone is always on the same page, and it's rare you see someone on SKT get caught out of position and mess up one of their plays.
I mean, to me, the deadliest thing about SKT is that there was definitely Season 3 Worlds. There were champions from them. They were the favorite for the tournament. Last year, definitely the favorite for the tournament. This year, very few people pre-tournament were predicting them to be the favorite. And that's why they've had a little bit less spotlight. People are looking to the Rocks Tigers, who maybe tripped up in the spotlight. You know, calmly in the shade, SKT's built. And now, I think a lot of analysts, come the quarterfinals, have SKT as the strongest team in the tournament.
Yeah, they're definitely with a very large chance to win. I think they were probably second or third in a lot of people's rankings. But Krepo, I want to go back to the point you made earlier where you say they had the season spacing in jest. But we play really long seasons in esports, especially for the best teams. Someone like FLICKR is in a competitive tournament almost every month of the year. So the fact that they have peaks and valleys is expected, and they're very good about making sure they're peaking at exactly the right time, taking a break right after they got eliminated in the LCK summer split, and then ramping up through the splits and through the tournaments. They always seem to end stronger than they start.
And that ties into, for me, their biggest strengths in international tournaments. It's their week-to-week preparation. They have looked weak at points into international tournaments, especially MSI week 1. Everyone's like, is it over for SKT? Then they go back to the drawing board. They have to prep for way fewer opponents, put everything on a single match, and they come prepared. They are ready for every single big ban scenario. Yes, they have innate weaknesses in a team. Every team at Worlds has them, but they seem to be very aware of them and play around them very well.
I mean, the only unique thing this time is that SKT lost their last regular season game against Longzhu. Looked a shadow of their former selves. Very disappointing performance. They only played one best-of-5 in the postseason. Lost to KT Rolster, obviously. A big upset there. So it wasn't the same story where they were starting to ramp up right at the end. This was the first time where you're like, I don't know where SKT's at. I don't know where their jungle's at. I don't know where a lot of SKT's at. And they've answered those questions preliminarily, but the best of 5 stage is where those questions get answered for real.
Yeah, and if we're still talking about pre-tournament expectations, the big weakness that people were trying to pinpoint for SKT was in that jungle slot. Hey, we're juggling 2 different guys. Blank, how's he going to perform on that world stage versus, you know, Bangi just subbing in? And is that kind of switching of synergies going to cause any issues? I don't know if it has so much yet, but what are your thoughts on that one, Jet?
I think when you have lanes as strong as FLICKR and Duke, the jungler doesn't necessarily need to excel. And I definitely do feel like if you're going to try and find a weakness in SKT, it's going to be in the jungle position. It hasn't actually knocked them out of the tournament. If it does, though, like if these guys do lose in the tournament, I think a lot of the blame will fall on the junglers because it is one of their weakest positions.
It's not an enviable position to be in. When SKT rebuilt in 2015 and when the sister teams ended, strong top laner, Marin, strong mid laner, FLICKR, both carry-minded. Bang and Wolf, they play a bit more defensive. That's their role in the team. Basically, you can't have a carry everywhere. If you plug in Rush, if you plug in a really aggressive jungler, the flow kind of falls away. That's been that kind of the history back when OMG tried to plug Uzi into more carries. So they need a supportive jungler. It's not the sort of thing that will get you the spotlight. It'll certainly get you the hate when they lose, but it's a necessary part, and they need to ward for these big solo laners.
Yeah, obviously, there's still degradation. How well can they play the support role? There are questions there that can be asked. However, if you look at the competition in the jungle role within the tournament, we saw a lot of top-tier jungle talent here at Worlds, but for me, very few have stood out as, honestly, beyond what the expectations were, and some actually have underperformed. If you look at this matchup in particular, I don't think Bangi or Blank will have too much issues with MLXG in his current form.
That's what I was about to go towards. Is we've looked at both of these teams now in separate microscopes. Let's pair them against each other in some of our analysis. Would you say that that jungle mid matchup is primarily how this best of series is going to hinge?
So it's really tricky for RNG of saying, how would you take down SKT? Because RNG, when you think of how they're going to win, you think they're going to win individual matchups. They have Uzi. I ranked Bang as a better AD carry than Uzi before Worlds. I don't necessarily think they can win the bottom lane. If there is a place where they could have a mismatch, it's if MLXG ascends from what he did at MSI, gets back to that aggressive, risky, crazy style of jungling, and then can pressure the mid lane because he shut down the jungler. Other than that, I don't see many avenues where RNG get edges.
I mean, if we look at the Flash Wolves game for SKT, the one game where they had success, it was constant pressure towards that mid lane from more than just the jungler. We had support roams, we had everything. So, I mean, is that it? Is FLICKR the key to SKT, or as you mentioned, with the strong lanes that they have on the side, are they able to fall back on those?
I mean, FLICKR has shown that he can crumble in matchups. It happens rarely, but when he does, he actually falls quite hard, especially in the Aurelion and Sol versus Cassiopeia matchup. Go back to when they played KT in the regional or in the playoffs rather, Fly, put FLICKR on a 0-4-0, and that can happen. If he tries to keep fighting his way out, it's an unlikely scenario, but for RNG, they're looking at a bunch of unlikely scenarios because they're the underdogs in this matchup.
And just consider the team that RNG went 2-0 over, the most practiced team in TSM is the only team they took out 2-0. This is a mismatch on some levels, but the inventiveness around the mid laner and jungler that was so strong at MSI, if they can channel it like they did in that second game against TSM, there is a world where they can win games.
And while we're taking a holistic view over on Riot Games 2, we're bringing you the player experience stream for an alternate take on the quarterfinal. In game 1, Atlas, Zyrene, and Alex each bring you an SKT-focused cast revolving around rotations, warding, and vision. Now, throughout the day, the player experience casters will be taking your questions on Twitter to help level up your game. We're almost ready to go, so let's lock in your guys' predictions for this series down the line. Who's booking the next trip to the semifinals? Kreppel, starting with you.
Gonna keep it short. I think SKT is gonna take it. I think that Fog of War stream is gonna look the exact same way as our stream right here because their vision is good, their play is better, and I'm just making a 3-0.
3-0, that's a big one there. Papa Smithy, what are you thinking?
I'm more optimistic for RNG picking up a game than I was for C9 yesterday. So I think it's going to be 3-1 SKT, but I think RNG can snowball a victory.
All right, Jet, what's your thoughts?
Man, always putting me at the end of the desk here on these one-sided matchups. There's nothing I can do to be surprising. I'm going to go with SKT. I think when they played in the semifinals at MSI, it was 3-1. I think it's likely that we get something similar to that. 3-1, 3-0, either could happen. I'm going to say 3-1.
All right, well, there we have it with the Summoners Cup within reach. SKT remains disciplined.
많은 분들이 저희 팀은 그냥 이기는 팀이다 뭐 이런 식으로 생각하셨을 것 같은데 사실 저희 목표는 생각보다 많이 소박하거든요. 그냥 후회 없는 경기를 하고 싶은 마음이 가장 컸었어요. 그냥 작년부터 올해까지 쭉 이어졌었는데 이기든 지든 그냥 좋은 경기력으로 그냥 팬분들한테 뭐 즐거움을 선사할 수 있다면 그냥 저희가 그것대로 만족할 것 같아요.
Hello everyone, I'm Sifa, not Atlas, joined here on the Player Experience stream by Zyrene and our special guest Alex Each, as we're going to be getting into our first matchup of the day. All through the quarterfinals though, we're going to be bringing you gameplay focus casts of the matchups unfolding in Chicago today. Alex Each will help us look in the middle lane, and we've got Gate on hand for his dual lane expertise, bringing you a bottom lane focus in Game 2 and a mid lane focus in Game 3. That's the plan, but we're ready to make some changes to the schedule depending on how the matchups play out. If we start to see a particularly bloody lane or a particularly compelling story that we just absolutely have to talk about. For the first game in this series between SK Telecom T1 and Royal Never Give Up, we're going to take a single team focused look at visions, rotations, and macro game decisions. The lights are out for SKT, and so we'll only see what the defending champions see through the fog of war for the duration of Game 1. Now, SKT, pretty fantastic orders. Crepo said it. I mean, you might just see the same thing you see on the mainstream. Insane stats here.
Well, it's not always just them warding. They're #1 in wards killed per minute, so they're denying the most vision out of any team, which is still a very powerful tool if you have really good laners and people who can take advantage of that.
It's really interesting as well, of course, when we can start to look at these two guys compared against each other. Wolf versus Mata, you can see that's where the number really stands out. Wards per minute, pretty similar, but Wolf coming in, killing twice the wards that Mata is.
Yeah, but look at that, though. It's pretty similar, but it's near that bottom. That puts Wolf at 14 out of 16 teams, 16 supports. I guess maybe even Core JJ and Wraith are in there, so 17. Yeah. But yeah, that's still very low in the spectrum, but it's all about how many he's clearing, whereas Mata is just a playmaker. He roams. He's not so much concerned with the vision.
So I think one thing we always want to talk about is more wards isn't necessarily always going to be better. Placing wards more efficiently seems like the answer. Do you think that that they're using wards more efficiently, or do they need to be warding more? Is that a concern coming into the game?
I think it depends, because most of the ward kills, I think they're around mid lane, especially early, because SKT cares a lot about like denying vision, and the efficiency of the vision is around mid lane early. And then later on, I don't think SKT had much opposition, so probably maybe that somehow the amount of wards happens, because like people are just not clearing the wards that much from them and not really trying to fight them. And a lot of the games were pretty slow paced. And the only game that they lost, I think, was SKT didn't have much vision too. So also, I guess it will depend, because with Bengi, he cares about vision himself more too. And I think Bengi and Wolf should be fine in terms of that. And we will see. It will be, I think, a lot about controlling the mid lane.
So as we gear up and as we get closer to Champions Select, I kind of want to ask about what we can expect from the early game. Because MLXG, we've seen that he has the higher jungle percentage, that he is a guy that likes to have more presence in lane, but we're not really seeing that transition very well into team effectiveness. So I'm wondering, do you have to worry about MLXG? They kind of brought it up on the desk. What are your thoughts on him so far this tournament?
I feel like the big thing with MLXG is that he has the potential to carry. He's one of the only carry jungles in the tournament that's left at the moment. Everybody's kind of supplemental to their team, where he can just actually take all the resources for himself and carry very hard. But I think the game isn't really so much about that. It's more about setting up your laners, and that's where RNG struggles. Is he'll set up the laners, but he has to get them a large enough lead that RNG can actually function as 5 separate parts, because they're not really a team just yet, and that's been the big problem for them. You know, multi-language team, they get to the mid game and then they kind of fall apart. We even saw it like at MSI, and it's been kind of a constant theme for them. You get behind early, all right, well, it's a big problem, and then they end up losing, or if they get ahead, closing the game has still been a problem for them.
Well, I think it's something we see in every region regardless, is that communication becomes a lot easier when you're ahead. There's not a lot of wrong decisions you can make when you're guaranteed to win out in fights, or you have this big advantage.
One language in your team. No?
That also helps, but that's win or lose. It seems like that language barrier could be important. Of course, that's one of the big things that we have talked about. Now we are about to get into Champion Select, so I want to talk, what do you think they're going to be the big picks coming out here for these two teams? What is going to define this quarterfinal matchup?
Well, Alex and I were actually talking about potential bans. We think like SKT is going to ban Nidalee, RNG is probably going to ban Syndra, SKT back to like Aurelion Sol. RNG, they actually go with the Olaf because it's Bengi here. And Caitlyn, gotcha! I told you Caitlyn was probably the third ban for SKT.
Yeah, so probably they're gonna ban Aurelion Sol. I don't see like them leaving it open, and I don't think FLICKR wants to play it, and I think he negates a lot of, but you see like they're focusing Bengi, so we were wrong. But I was saying that there is a chance that they're gonna focus out Bengi completely and just try to get him out of his game. And maybe maybe we're finally gonna see that famous Bengi Lee Sin.
Well, here's the thing. SKT, they banned Syndra. Okay, so now they actually allow you to ban Rek'Sai or something like that and force Bengi onto something else.
That Syndra ban is actually interesting. Are they actually going to play Aurelion Sol themselves?
Interesting to see, of course, Syndra has now been banned against RNG in 6 out of their 7 games. The only game that it wasn't banned by the opponent, it was banned by them. Xiao's yet to get his hands on it, and also Bangi, those are the only 2 champions he's played in his 2 games, Olaf and Elise, so it is the shutdown. But now Aurelion Sol is up and available.
Yeah, so I guess we were kind of like 1 or 2 bans off here with the Olaf and swapping the sides for the Syndra and Aurelion Sol not making it on, but that's actually quite interesting. So they go with the Karma, they banned out the Caitlyn to break up the combo, but we know that Wolf also plays Zyra, so it's kind of strange they put so much of a priority onto that.
Interesting additionally as well, we do now see the Jace and the Jhin locked in, and this feels like RNG showing their hand very early. Alex, I feel like we already know what they're going to be trying to do with this composition just based on the first 2 picks.
Yeah, I mean, just like RNG style, I think they just want to win lanes. It just all the team is about is winning lanes and snowballing that, because if they lose lane, I don't think they ever came back from the game, especially in this tournament. So it's just like getting ahead and then snowballing it as hard as possible, and Jace and Jhin are probably the best at it right now.
Yeah, and like RNG, we have to keep in mind that they were a 3-3 team with a 50% win rate coming out of the group stage, and they actually averaged down in gold very early on in the game. I believe at 10 minutes or 15 minutes, they averaged down about 1,000 gold, whereas SKT has the most lead at about 3,000.
Yeah, it's because they average, because like when they lose hard.
Yeah.
Interesting as well, we are now seeing the Bang Ezreal coming in.
Yep.
Listen.
Yeah. Like, we thought it might be Rek'Sai, but like Rek'Sai hasn't been seen since week 1, really. It's kind of a pick that people have been not going towards after the base stat nerfs, but Bengi on the Lee Sin, I want to see how he plays. And the Ezreal, kind of an obvious pick once you have Jhin off the table and Caitlyn.
Of course, Bang putting out insane damage per minute numbers as well here. But Alex, what do you think RNG need to be looking to do with their second rotation?
I mean, it's just like Rek'Sai's left. I don't think anyone gonna pick something like Graves. So I guess that's pretty much it. And then if he picks Zyra, it's gonna be fun. But I don't think Mata wants to.
No, I think you do, because this is like physical damage heavy, right?
Oh, true.
Like,
Ooh,
and
Mata Zyra.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to have a physical damage jungler here as well. So if he's going like Tiamat early, or at least MLXG is, like, now SKT, if they lock in a Poppy top or something, it's not as easy as it would have been before to like just stack 1 resistance.
So Zyra is really good for any kind of poke comp, because her counter engage is huge.
Yeah, the disengage is freaking great. Like, SKT actually played it last week, and it was super good. And yeah, the Poppy comes through.
I don't understand that priority on Karma that much. And Victor against Aurelion Sol, I guess. I mean, I would give it to Aurelion Sol, to be honest, if he actually wants to play it.
Will be interesting to see what the final pick is. The Poppy coming out. Now, last time we saw Duke counterpick the Trundle in this match, of course, and most of that Jace is going to be Flex, which I think is highly unlikely. We can't expect some sort of interesting top lane matchup here, just between the Jace and the Poppy. Now, looking at the mid lane pool, looking at the available picks, what do you think they just have to go to Aurelion Sol? Is there anything else that's really solid against a Victor?
I mean, Orianna is solid. There are other like magic damage, but I think Aurelion Sol is just pretty broken and it stayed, and it benefits a lot Zyra lane and Jace lane.
Yeah, I think it's kind of between Cassiopeia right now, Vladimir, and Aurelion Sol, because they're kind of looking for counter engage, but wave clear is also a problem for this team.
Yeah. I don't really agree with Vladimir that much.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of the third one in my opinion. Like Aurelion Sol and Cassio seem like better picks here.
Vladimir comes into mind when you're like, okay, FLICKR is a better player, so you want to put him Xiaohu on something safe, so he doesn't get camped by Bengi FLICKR combo, and they just basically stabilize mid lane and go somewhere else. That's what it looks like.
But that's the thing is, Vladimir's wave clear like doesn't rival Victor's at almost any stage of the game, so FLICKR just gets priority in this lane from the get-go.
Yeah, but then he doesn't. It just depends on if FLICKR roams, then yeah, it could be a problem. But then roaming Victor is not as, I would say, it's not as scary. And then at the same time, you don't get pressured at all at mid lane as Vladimir. Like, they have almost 0 kill pressure with Lee Sin and Victor until you actually screw up a lot.
Yeah, I normally agree that like the Victor roams aren't that impactful, but everybody on this team has no gap closer for RNG, right? No way to make a distance between themselves and the enemy unless they land a skill shot. It's kind of like,
oh, well, man, tunnel to the skies.
It's only Rek'Sai, right? But to the skies is like, you have to have a target. It's not just a move block on command.
Yeah, it's not very strong. And of course, there's additionally Poppy to shut down those very limited options already. So we're going to have to see how this composition unfolds. It feels like RNG are already taking a very, I would say aggressive, some might say greedy draft here and winning the early laning phase. But remember to reach out with us with your questions on Twitter using the hashtag AskTheCasters. We'll bring you responses live during the game from Alex Ish. I'll butcher your names. They'll give you interesting answers. It's really just a wonderful experience. Be sure to participate. But as we get into this game, I feel like this feels already pretty slated in the favor of SKT right off the get-go.
Yeah, I actually like their comp a little bit better. I think it's just more well-rounded right now in RNG. If they get behind in lane, then it's a big problem. But their disengage is super good. So if they get ahead, it'll be hard to get in on this team and shut them down.
I mean, the only problem I see in the comp of RNG, I don't know how they're going to kill Poppy if Poppy gets going. Because, I mean, Vladimir is not really good against tanks. So is Jace, kinda. And then I guess the best tank killer in their team is Zyra. So maybe Madak just goes ham and goes like full Liquid, buys Leandris, Rylai's.
I think it's a bit of a problem when you start to look at your support as your only option for killing tanks. That feels... It's like having a Tom Kench on your team. Be like, he does % health damage.
Yeah, and you're talking about like how are they going to kill this Vladimir? Like they don't have Ignite on their team. Wolf took the exhaust because it is such a high damaging team on RNG. But Mata even takes the Ignite for himself. Like he's just trying to kill people. He does this so much with this lane with Uzi. Because if they do get that kill, then they start that snowball and they're in a really good spot. And I like that from SKT.
I think this is the Mata style of play against range supports overall. He always takes Ignite because against range supports, actually, the chance of killing a lane is high. And I don't know, he just likes that style of play.
Yeah, he does it even when there's like a Kennen in the game. He takes an Ignite and it's like,
I guess.
Aggressive strategies coming out here from RNG.
It's a bold move.
I wonder if FLICKR gonna build Morellos against Vladimir or not. Because most of Victor builds don't really have Morellos in it, and it's really not that effective to build. But at the same time, you really want to counter that like lifesteal thingy.
I feel like he might have to, given that, as you mentioned, there's no Ignite on the team. Now, I want to look at where the jungle pressure is going to go early. Historically, neither of these teams have paid any attention to the top side of the map, but with what feels to be such a farm-focused mid lane matchup, does everyone just now have to default to the bottom side, or could we see the mix-up and could see them go top?
I think RNG can go top, while I think SKT should focus around mid lane and bot.
Bot seems like an easy lane to gank.
Yeah, especially because it's like Karma against Zyra. I mean, both are super vulnerable. I mean, Karma has more escapes, but Zyra is like really vulnerable to ganks, especially with Jhin. They have like no gap closers. They're really easy to get ganked, especially with Lee Sin.
Seems like a particularly rough match, but you can already see huge level 1 control coming out from Wolf and Bang, and Wolf clearly familiar with how to play the Zyra matchup.
Yeah, what ended up happening is RNG, Uzi and Mata started on the bottom side. You can know that because Uzi walked into lane with 1 CS, so they did the Gromp. Then you can deduce that MLXG started on the top side of the map as Rek'Sai. So you assume for him to do the red buff, and then maybe you ward the blue buff, and that's exactly what Bengi is doing right now. He hasn't done a buff yet. He hit level 3 off of small camps, and he's going for the Scuttle? Okay, I guess he's going for Scuttle control, and Wolf is going for the ward.
Yeah, SKT has bot lane priority, so Wolf can just roam and distract MLXG, try to like pressure him a bit and get a vision on the jungler so everyone knows where he is.
And interesting, too, to see SKT not take a very aggressive move. We've seen a lot of teams, RNG included, invade for that early blue buff. Look for the fight when they have priority on the bottom side, but SKT take the Scuttle Crab and back off instead.
Yeah, blue buff doesn't really help Xiaohu or MLXG here. It's just kind of a throwaway experience buff right now for the jungler.
Yeah.
If it's like another mid laner, like a Cassiopeia or Ryze or something, like you really want to deny that blue from going over.
I guess, I actually don't know. I think Bengi, maybe he wasn't healthy enough because his health was like half health as Lee Sin. So he wanted to like get health back from Scuttle and just keep clearing. And also he probably wants to give the blue buff to FLICKR. Yep. Maybe that's why they didn't go for aggressive approach and went for more safe. So he can actually get into his jungle faster. Because if something happens there, he loses HP, he needs to back, and then FLICKR doesn't get his blue buff.
Yep.
And I think they just want to get FLICKR ahead.
Yeah, I don't think you actually risk anything there on the enemy blue buff. It's kind of a throwaway.
I think it's really interesting to see, too, how much vision SKT have already put down and how they prioritized it with the early push advantages in both the bot lane and the middle lane. Now, MLXG spotted out there as we see him going to the river. This feels like it just limits him so much on what he can do to be effective in the early game.
Yeah, especially because he used his smite, I think, for something. So he doesn't have smite for the Raptor buff, and he doesn't know where the wards are. So you're gonna be, I mean, like SKT don't know that, but they have all the vision about MLXG, so they know where he's going, which side of the map he is, and top lane feels less pressured of SKT, and FLICKR most of the time knows where he is, and he has a blue buff, so he can pressure Vladimir before his first recall, which is really good.
Interesting to see, too, with the blue buff, how much easier this mid lane matchup is for FLICKR. The first 3 levels were definitely FLICKR favored. It does seem like it's starting to balance out, but FLICKR still with a decent CS lead here.
Yeah, this is actually a bad position for the lane for Xiaohu because he has to walk up and take harass. So MLXG gonna walk up, try to break the freeze.
Yeah, this is one of the situations where even 2v1 it's hard to break the freeze because Rexy doesn't have any kind of wave clear.
Yeah, aggressive play.
Also doesn't have vision.
That's interesting. Cooper is going aggressive.
Duke.
I think Duke is dead.
Yep.
Ooh, first blood.
I mean, I guess Duke didn't expect him to go into like that huge wave. It was like 6 CS there, and Looper just tanked the whole wave, just killed the wave with his 2 abilities, and killed Duke at the together with the wave, just like double farming.
Yeah, and like we've seen this from Jace's a little bit more now, is the Fervor build against Poppy, and he had 8 stacks. He had full stacked Fervor there, and it didn't look like Duke respected that at all. Just let him keep beating up on him.
That's actually what I was thinking, that people are pretty stubborn with their builds.
Yeah.
Because Fervor is really good against tanks, especially early on. Because usually you do 30 damage, right? But it stacks up, and you eventually, especially with W, you can stack it up pretty fast.
Oh yeah, you can auto attack cancel with it too, and then you get like 4 instant stacks right there.
Yeah,
right?
and you use one ability, so
you get 6.
I mean, it seems like a really excellent spot to be in. And speaking of builds, I want to hit a quick Twitter question, depending on exactly how this plays out. Definitely Looper taking control there. But at Mickey Zana asks, wanted to know, Zyrene and Alex, why are we not seeing Manamune Jace in this meta? I think we've hit this one before, but let's just bring it up again since we're on the subject of Jace efficiency.
Too slow. It's too slow of a build. Armor Pen is very important. Being able to dominate the lane, and also he got an AD ratio added to his hammer form swap, so it's like even more important that he gets early AD and continues to beat the matchup.
A lot of people in top lane, especially go into melee form a lot. You don't have much problems because you dominate the lane, so you get a lot of mana back. Some of people are going meditation mastery, which gives you mana back too, and then Manamune is just slow, and Jace, I mean, he kind of scales, but at the same time, he doesn't really scale. You wanted that mid-game power spike, so you don't want to slow down with tier. And it's much easier just to build because you don't need to care about Manamune that much, so you have 1 more item slot that you can go for GA or more lifesteal or anything, because you don't really get that mana gated. Especially now, the team comp they don't even have the blue buff user, so he can get a blue buff eventually when they go for the siege.
That's true. You just get it handed off to him. I think another thing as well is, when you have the Manamune, and this is something that I've run into as well when I play Jace, is how often are you actually getting in range to use it? It's super good, but your poke pattern underneath turrets is usually what you're going for. Armor penetration works on turrets now, so it's even worth more than before in a siege.
And similarly, when you're at the point in the game where you want to be auto-attacking, usually the early laning phase, you're not going to have that passive effect. By 30 minutes, 25 minutes, when you get it, how many times are you actually in auto-attack range? You're probably just poking down with
that's why
EQ.
you're probably only going to see 8-stack Fervor for Looper if he's ignored in a team fight or in the early laning phase. Usually your masteries are for that early laning phase in this type of matchup.
Now we see SKT continuing to lay down a little bit more vision, but I want to stay on the top lane for just a little while longer, as this is a matchup we may not get to talk about today, depending on how the series unfolds. Very often we see the Youmu's coming out first. This time around, it looks like Looper is working towards the Black Cleaver. What do you think is the thought process here?
He's just against tank. He go in Ferro battle, he go in Black Cleaver, he wants to stack them both and just you slowly kill Poppy down, so it helps a lot. It actually shreds so much armor, your damage gets huge on tanks.
Yeah, people were criticizing, I think, Hanser for the Black Cleaver build. It's actually really good against Poppy, and I think that's one of the only times that you'll see it, up against a Kennen or Rumble. You definitely go for your Youmu's Ghostblade, but against Poppy, 100% Black Cleaver.
You see here, Cheers coming out. I'm not sure for what. We'll find out. Looks like some trading aggressively on the bottom side, though.
Ward probably died.
Yeah, it's cheering for wards.
That's important. We're the Fog of War stream. We got to make sure we capture those wards dying.
We can see that FLICKR still has vision around mid lane, but overall it's pretty hard to even pressure him.
Yeah, so what happened right here is they saw Looper leave lane, so they assumed the blue buff is warded so that they'll get the information here. So FLICKR starts to do it by himself, gets it handed off so that it's really quick, and he doesn't waste any time, so that could possibly go over because they don't know exactly where Looper was at the time, or sorry, MLXG was at the time.
Yeah, it's
but
also
now he did red, yeah.
FLICKR just pushed out the lane, so he wants to get blue buff as fast as possible so he doesn't lose anything and can keep pressuring Vladimir. And we can see the tone from FLICKR, so maybe he is going for that Morellas. Heavy trading bot lane.
Ooh, massive trading. There goes the Zyra ult, in goes the W. Curtain call coming out. Wolf One shot's going to connect, 2 shots hitting home. Wolf set to fall, 4th shot. Ooh, solid flash to get out. Good call, Alex. You knew it was coming.
Yeah. It would be funny if Uzi actually tried to predict the flash and just shot at the random place and then Wolf would have flash into it. That would have been sick.
That's the dream. But it's like SKT now trying to get a lead on the top side of the map. Jace running for his life. Poppy Hammer goes up. This looks bad for Looper. Good flash to get out.
Yeah, Duke flash R, but it's really hard to connect Lee Sin Q because you can flash almost instantly out of the Poppy.
Oh, wow. Whoa. Ooh, RNG. That's going to be tower first blood and about a 2K gold lead going in their favor. Now, keep in mind, this is the 4th game that RNG have gotten first tower, and this is the 4th game that it has been the bottom lane outer first.
So we can see Zyra going ham.
Yeah, like, that's actually really damn good for them. I don't know if it was solo turret gold for Uzi or not. It probably was. And they had a lot of time to do that because they pushed out the bottom lane. He got some damage onto Bang, made sure that Wolf had to back, and then they saw Bengi top. So it's a 3v0 on the bot side in favor of RNG. So MLXG shows, helps him take out the turret.
Aggressive trading here. Xiaohu moving forward, not playing scared at all. There's the snare. There, out of nowhere comes the rest of RNG. The vision not quite there, but the Chaos Storm is ticking down. Xiaohu wants to use the Crimson Tide. RNG moving their way into the mid lane. Where do SKT now need to be warding? What do SKT have to play around? Because RNG finally have that lead that we talked about earlier.
I think right now, what SKT needs to do is ward around mid lane and just like keep that wave clear going, because if you lose mid tower, it's gonna be super painful. I think you can lose tier 1 top, but eventually RNG, they're gonna group with their comp and it's gonna be super hard.
So right now, it looks like what's happening is Looper on the bottom side of the map. They have Uzi and Mata in the mid.
Yeah, they're probably gonna set up some kind of 1-3-1.
Yeah, it's a 1-3-1, or they rotate Uzi top, or it's just they go mid and possibly set up Dragon.
I think they got the FLICKR summoners, so they will probably sit around mid lane and either try to like get FLICKR out of the mid lane and get the mid turret, or they will try to get the Dragon.
Yeah, keep Xiaohu top.
Interesting now, too, you can still see the SKT vision is impeccable. They have knowledge of just about everything, but unfortunately, without a deep ward in the jungle, they couldn't be sure of the mid lane assignments. As you predicted, Zyrene, though, it is going to be them in the mid lane, at least for now. So what happens here now with Xiaohu on the top side? Are RNG just poised now to take this mid lane tower?
Well, it will be either they will be pressuring mid tower and then like just getting it, or because they're clearing the river vision, they will try to rotate between mid and top and maybe just get a top tower after they push out mid.
I actually think this is a really cool sequence of events for people to look at, because what just happened was, because Uzi and Mata got the bottom lane turret, Uzi and Mata got to go mid, get control of that area, and Bang just keeps shoving out bottom. And so SKT, you know, they can't really get out of those lane assignments for a little bit. And so Uzi gets to kill a pink ward in the top pixel brush, and then Xiaohu gets to shove out top lane, come down, and clear the top pink ward as well. So SKT actually lost a lot of vision all across the map because they lost bottom turret, and then RNG did really good lane assignments afterwards.
Little battle around the Dragon here. Bengi is spotted out. Can't tell if that one's luck. We don't have knowledge of where RNG have vision. If Looper was just wandering by, cannot be 100% sure. So watch FLICKR look by. I want to bring up something we talked about earlier. Blue buffs being donated to the mid laner. Rek'Sai, Lee Sin. We have a question coming in here from Omarson4. Are Lee Sin and Rek'Sai the only champs where you can give away the first blood, or first blue? Would you do the same with Elise or Nidalee?
Ooh, I wouldn't do that with Elise or Nidalee. Maybe something like Zac, but I guess that's it.
Yeah, so Olaf wants it as well.
Yeah, why can't you afford? Is it just you need the mana regeneration?
You need the mana regeneration. You benefit from it a lot. It's just like, it's still experience and everything, but you benefit from it so much that you can't really afford giving it. Especially because mana regen early, before you get the smite item, is pretty low.
Yeah, and like, Mana is Nidalee's sustain in the jungle to stay healthy, because she just keeps healing herself. And therefore she has just like kind of an infinite loop of I heal myself, I regen the mana, etc.
At least wants to use all her abilities just to get the spiders back.
Like, constantly keep yourself up in terms of sustain in the jungle. And also your clear time is very important on those two champions, because Elise risks falling behind and Nidalee risks not staying ahead.
Well, it's interesting too, of course, because Olaf, I mean, you talk about sustain. He kind of has the built-in sustain with the W. You're always going to live, but man, does he clear slow without that X. You just need to spam that out.
Yeah, his mana costs are just ridiculous when he's
the problem of both, like, for example, Olaf and Hecarim, they both just get out of mana so hard. It's just like, even with the blue buff, you get out of mana, and without blue buff, it's just painful.
Evelyn's kind of the same too. Like, just want to spam all day.
TP on the top side, curtain call, SKT responding. Looper does complete, trying to get aggressive. Force shot comes in. Xiaohu out of nowhere. Flash to clean out the kill, but the fight rages on. Duke knocked back in and knocked up. Bounce house on the side of RNG.
That's what we talk about. When RNG get ahead, the things go wild.
Yeah, they're actually doing some really, really well. And it's off that bottom lane turret going down. They just have the snowball started. They hit item breakpoints a little bit sooner, even though like the black cleavers come through for Looper right now. It's not that big of a deal, but now RNG just group up as 5, and they shove down these objectives with superior numbers. Like, super well played.
We can see the vision of SKT getting denied super hard. Like, they warded that river, but it totally got cleared. And after that, they don't know if Vladimir is roaming or not. And because of the overall pressure, because they got FLICKR summoners, he cannot play up.
Yep.
So Xiaohu just roams top, and SKT don't even see it, or see it too late.
Yeah, it looks like they don't actually see it at all. And that's why like Wolf dodges to the right. Otherwise, he would have dodged to the left most likely.
Yeah. And then Duke, I mean, he counter TPs, but Xiaohu is there first.
Yeah. And honestly, TPing as a top laner into a Zyra is just an absolute nightmare. It's like, is she going to use the E? Is she going to R?
Yeah.
It's like, no matter what happens, you're kind of screwed.
The funniest part is you TP into Zyra and then she one-shots you.
Yeah, it's like, what is going on?
Turns out if you stand still in a pack of plants, bad things are going to happen to you.
Feels bad, man.
Yeah,
like,
especially when you play against Maya, he has Ignite on top of that.
I mean, nice knockback at the end of the day. RNG, I mean, I honestly was on the side of Krepl on this one. I thought this was going to be the 3-0 for SKT, but RNG with a pretty massive lead, 16 minutes into the game, and they're already up 3 kills and 3K gold. SKT, they've got decent vision, but RNG are doing their best to deny it. What is the win condition at this point for SKT?
I mean, SKT is like every Korean team. I think they're decent at playing from behind, so they just try to stall out, farm their like items, their item spikes. So basically, 3K gold at this point is huge, but 3K gold, for example, in 10 minutes is not that huge because item-wise, the difference is not that many. Like, because right now, RNG at point where they are finishing their second item, and they will all finish second item earlier than SKT do. So basically what SKT want, they want to finish their second item. So basically the difference is like half an item or something.
Yeah.
And then after that, they can try fighting because their team fight comp is still strong. I mean, whenever you play against Poppy, you're still playing against that tank that will be really hard to kill. Until, of course, Zyra has Magic Pen Boots already, so Leandris is coming, and yeah, get hurt.
I mean, this is like Mata telling every solo queue player, like, you can play Zyra bottom, it's fine, just get Sightstone. Just get Sightstone, and then you're fine.
Yeah, that's how you play Vel'Koz support.
Oh, man. Vel'Koz, I've seen like Vel'Koz support and like Xerath support actually win a game. It's really weird.
I'm not going to say that was my thing, but that Varus, Vel'Koz, Varus, Xerath were like our cheese lane. You go with the sweet Skinergy, you get the Arclight.
Do you do it now? Because it's even better now on 615.
I don't even do it now. No, I played with a kid who was adamant that Gwynsu's Varus was the greatest thing on the face of the planet. He was just so mechanically good that we'd win lane, but he'd be like, no, it's because Gwynsu's is broken. It's not. Don't do it. It's terrible.
Who is it? It's FSN Saber, the guy who keeps making those montages. He was a collegiate player for Georgia Tech, and he has all of his 80 carry montages. And he's like super adamant about Blade of the Ruined King first Caitlyn. Yeah. I'm like, what? So he like made the montage where like he almost dies and like gets the proc off. It's like, oh, I activated it. It's like, it's so good. I wouldn't have killed the Cassiopeia otherwise.
It's like heal baiting. It's Blade of the Ruined King active baiting.
Yeah, man. Just flash as scaling because you're usually out of range for Borg, so you need to flash to actually use it.
Flash in, use it, E out, get the headshot.
All right. Yeah. Well, on the subject of 1v1ing and like sick mechanical plays, Logan wants to know, why haven't we seen GP, Fiora, or Yasuo at this World?
Yeah. Yasuo's like really good into Gnar, but we haven't seen so much Gnar. Also, Yasuo took nerfs on the tank build, so he's a little bit more glass cannon and risky. Fiora, kind of the same story. I feel like maybe we could see her, but
Fiora is good against tanks, bad into any range matchup.
Yeah.
So basically, you don't want to pick her in range matchup.
Also, like, Fiora kind of dumpsters Kennen, but Kennen's interaction with Fiora is Fiora can never actually stun Kennen. Because her riposte goes off of if you were going to get hit by a CC, and what it does is Kennen's marks apply on damage. So you damage her twice. The third one, she just actually absorbs it as the damage. So the third mark doesn't apply. She never would have been stunned. As soon as her post is done, you stun her. So it's like, she doesn't even win that matchup, which she would normally win otherwise.
That's a really interesting interaction. I would not have guessed that, but now that you explained it, it makes sense.
The other day, I was like, oh man, this is going to suck. Like, she's doing so much physical damage. I'm like, I got to do it. I got to ulti. She posts, and it's like, oh, wait, what? oh, I kill you. It's like,
But yeah, we can see that SKT are going for defensive vision, and right now their goal is just defending mid, and we can see RNG is just like grouping out, clearing vision around mid lane, and trying to pressure the mid lane. So it comes down to if FLICKR can keep wave clearing, keep defending the wave, and they probably just like, I mean, you gotta give up your jungle at this point, and it's like risky to contest or anything. And even if you go the safe ways, and you can see like RNG, they're like, basically, I mean, they cannot break mid because there is a Victor and it's hard, but they're taking your jungle and they're suffocating you.
And the good news, of course, is that while it is bad for FLICKR to lose out on this blue buff, it doesn't give an insane benefit to MLXG or Xiaohu. It does not go over to Looper either. So while it is bad to slowly get bled out like this, unless we see a little bit of engage here, curtain call coming out, FLICKR actually going to get caught up and looks set to fall. Trying to make his way out, is not going to connect on the stun. RNG moving mid.
and you could see there that it's kind of like trauma from what happened before where FLICKR blew both summoners and gave up so much pressure. They didn't even use his flash there. He didn't even like try to flash the wall and get away. It was just like, I'm just going to hold this flash because it's probably worth more later.
It's really weird that FLICKR just like steps up so much because, I mean, at this point you understand what's happening and you're just like, want to see that turret and just wave clear it over and over again. And we saw this reckless move from FLICKR, like in the game, for example, against Flash Wolves, where they lost.
Yeah.
Where they fall behind, but he still steps up and tries to like pressure or something, and they fall even more behind of that.
Interesting too, as we get in this replay, both keep your eyes on FLICKR and remember that when we're in replay, we can actually see all the vision. So look at the insane amount of vision, not insane, look at the amount of vision that RNG are placing in the enemy jungle as we watch FLICKR get blown down there. Their vision control, despite being notably worse than that of SKT in terms of raw statistics, has improved significantly in this game. 13 more wards placed, 9 more pink wards as well.
I think it wasn't that worse. Like in terms of placing the wards, RNG actually were pretty good. It was about clearing the wards where it mattered. And then again, it could be somehow because SKT were winning most of their games, where RNG were like losing most of their games, it could like influence the digits a bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually very true. And like even like looking at game time type statistics, so RNG, I think they're the fastest team in the tournament in terms of average game time at 31.5 minutes. And then SKT, their average game time is 40 minutes. And they won 5 of their games. So SKT, even winning their games, seems to be quite slow and methodical. And when they're behind, it's kind of the same tempo. So RNG, they play fast, SKT plays slow, and then this mid-game, it's all about who can actually wrestle the vision from the other one. And that's what SKT are going to try to do and get vision back in this game, try to contest some things lightly if they can actually get them.
This is where the pain of SKT starts, where they were losing to Flash Wolves, where FLICKR starts split pushing the lane. It's like Victor or Katsu or whatever. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, because he like goes bot lane into the long lane with no vision. And last time he just got TP'd on and died, and they lost the Baron of that.
Yeah.
This time it's bot side, so they cannot lose Baron, I guess.
That's the bright side.
Good little piece of optimism there.
Yeah,
Alex.
but yeah, it's just like really painful. It's the same in solo queue. If your bot lane loses the turret in like 8-10 minutes, the game becomes super hard because they just like roam around, they clear all your vision, they start pressuring turrets, they get a bot turret, they get top turret, and then the mid turret is like hard to break just because they have Victor and like really good wave clear.
A veritable flurry of pings from both sides around this dragon. Appears to be the focus, but we're shifting our attention briefly to the top side because you can see Duke is getting beat out in this 1v1. Looper looks like the early Black Cleaver really helping here.
Yeah, it's just a losing matchup for the Poppy. Despite what we saw yesterday with Impact getting kind of bodied in the top lane by Cuvee, with Cuvee being the Poppy, this is a matchup that totally goes in the Jace's favor, and you will eventually lose your turrets. It's kind of an inevitability if it's just left on its own, and that's what RNG have done successfully, is kind of section it off, keep Bengi on one side of the map, because that's not what Cloud9 did yesterday, because it was just early ganks, flash blown from Impact, Impact gets killed, then it's like Looper, or Cuvee can just solo kill him and just take over the lane and get his turret.
I mean, dying 1v1 didn't help Duke that much too, so
yeah.
Interesting too that we've seen
Yep.
so many, I would say, one-sided top lane matchups. Cuvee kind of coming out of nowhere to take down Impact. Most people surprised. I'd say Looper beating out Duke. Looper's been known as a good player, a very talented player, of course, but not known for like the solo carry top lane style, right? So interesting shift that we're seeing in the top lane, just moving into the bracket stage.
Yeah, Looper's just been very versatile. He's always been kind of a role player, but a crazy role player, I'll put it that way. It's like
that's what we call the Singe. That's how we're just saying cough, cough, Singe pick.
He picks Singe.
I'm still waiting for Looper Singe. Maybe he pulls it out today, finally. I've heard he's still playing it in solo queue, so you never know.
Yeah, he loves that champion. It's how he did
still
Challenger
playing in
first, I believe.
LPL. So
It's so painful because like you can see the meteorite is still staying, but at this point, just because of the pressure of the Jace, he can just get turrets by himself. And I mean, I like and dislike. I think that SKT could have abandoned that mid turret to just try to relieve Poppy a bit and kill Jace, because like losing tier 2 actually hurts.
So now, as we see the game calm down at least for a moment, as RNG have taken the major objectives as they have to move for their next setup. First thing I want to ask is, what is the next move for SKT? I'm going to keep hitting this one as we move forward, because honestly, it just seems like RNG are slowly bleeding them out.
Yeah, they have to set up where they think RNG want to go next. So like, you set up the Baron right now. There's nothing on the bottom side of the map to really play for. And just keep your mid turret alive, because it's kind of your last bastion of hope at the moment. Unless you trade it for something on the other side.
I think what SKT are doing, they're just like farming up and getting their items, because we can see that Ezreal stacked up his Muramana and got a gauntlet. They're actually pressuring mid lane by themselves, by the way, because they have poke, they have like that Ezreal powerhouse, and they will probably try to play around Ezreal, while we can see FLICKR CS is actually pretty huge too.
Yeah.
So he will get his items, and that's what they're playing. Like they're just like every methodical Korean teams. We can see that compared to Chinese teams, they're actually really good when they're behind in terms of their methodical vision, safe vision, just like trying to play it out until like something random happens, like FLICKR split pushes on Casio.
Yeah.
They're actually doing really good job in terms of playing it slow and trying to not bleed as hard as other teams and just like get their item spikes, and then they just suddenly strike and win the team fight, get the Baron, win the game.
And this is one of the hardest points in the game for a team like RNG to close out, is get to those tier 2s and actually like crack the base, because their wave clear is really low as well, especially in comparison to the Victor. You've been talking about it a lot, how the Victor will just pretty much wave clear the mid. You can't really go through there. So RNG are having to find ways to get on the get to the deep parts of the map and get onto the tier 2s. But if you get on the tier 2s with that mid still up, it's so hard to get control of those jungle sides, and then you just get wrapped around. Like now you can't, probably won't see Looper go to the top side again.
Good exhaust. This is aggressive coming in from they have burned just about everything here. There's no flash available on Mana. They're trying to keep MLXG knocked down. Heal does come out. I don't know if it's going to be enough. Disengage for the Poppy, but Looper is suddenly in the middle of the team. That Jace may not be tanky enough. Gravity Field. Chain CC comes in for SKT, and RNG, I mean, really just feels like overextend there.
Yep. And now FLICKR, run to the top side. Get yourself some CS.
NAJs. I mean, he just, instead of going in the range form, like doing the damage and like using QE, he went melee form, flashed in to 5 people and just died.
Yeah, I feel like that is the RNG moment, right? This is where we see the RNG tendency come out, because they lost a bunch of cooldowns and they're like, screw it, we're taking the fight anyway. Because this all starts, remember, with Lee Sin getting pretty much every ability out of Mata.
I mean, their idea of how to break the mid tower is good. Their execution is horrible. Like, this is why people blame RNG so much. Because like, the methodical way of play, you got a 2-side turret top side. Just like clear, look at that.
Flanking Jace.
Flash in.
It's the flanking Jace.
I mean, no, EQ and flanking was fine, but when he flashed in like that...
I think he E'd the wrong person too. I think he hit Wolf there instead of Bengi.
Yeah, I don't know who he wanted to hit, but yeah, it looked questionable.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, what I want to see from RNG, it's just like, you know, you push out the mid lane, you push out the top side where you have control bot side, you get the deep vision, and then you like posturing for the dive. Yeah, we can see FLICKR getting the pressure.
FLICKR got a lot from that. He got the flash out of Xiaohu. He didn't have to burn any summoners himself, and Looper tried to TP in.
RNG moments.
I mean, just seems like some poor decision-making coming in to give SKT an edge back in, and honestly, it already felt like they were starting to get some of the momentum back, sieging down that mid lane turret. Now Bang, pretty much poised to take that one down by himself. RNG, a flurry of pings coming out. They want to stop this, but I don't know if they have the tools.
At least I've read the Mata build properly. Professional support.
Yeah, get the Leandri.
But yeah, we can see like the problem. SKT actually breaking the mid turret first because of the pressure they got, while RNG were in the lead.
Well, I actually love what SKT have been doing from behind the entire time. Oh my god, if they get MLXG here, that might be a Baron attempt, or at least
Ezreal. MLXG trying to make it out. They're trying to get the disengage. Ezreal, nice coming in, but here comes the shot. Fired onto the backside, is going to hit Wolf. Looper needs to get something back if they want to stop the Baron. He goes in again. He doesn't have flash this time to get aggressive, but man, he wants that kill on Bangi. Nice snare. Trying to get aggressive. Ooh, missing shots.
FLICKR versus Xiaohu up on the top side, though. FLICKR's about to have ulti. Oh, okay.
Nice cool, nice cool. Getting aggressive, waiting.
Yeah.
We'll have the empowered Q.
Yeah, his
Oh, where does he go? Fancy footwork! Not enough.
You know what
Yeah.
it reminds me? The game against Flash Wolves, where FLICKR again is like split pushing randomly. When he sees people fighting, he just doesn't run away. He actually like keeps fighting Xiaohu there.
So what SKT have been doing is they've been actually trying to get small little bits. Like what SKT don't do is they don't overcommit for a tower. But what he's doing is everybody is fighting near the Baron pit, and they pick off MLXG, and then FLICKR says, okay, well, maybe I'll get this top turret. Meanwhile, Duke, on the bottom side of the map, actually gets that bottom turret, doesn't decide to come up to this fight at all, decides to just pressure. So FLICKR kind of keeps people busy a little bit longer, but it is a very long lane in the top side, and he has no business being here. But I think he could have killed Xiaohu if it wasn't for that Chaos Storm being a little bit off of cooldown. It comes up in like 2 seconds here, and then Xiaohu actually pulls, and then the Chaos Storm is too slow to actually reapply Rylai's to Xiaohu.
This is a Chaos Storm nerf that towards victory doesn't go fast anymore.
Yeah.
So it's actually pretty hard. And yeah, this is like, I still, SKT like getting back into gold because of that. Because like Duke got the turret. This is like how Korean teams play in terms of when they're behind, they're still like applying a lot of pressure while something else happening on the map and they're getting the turrets of that.
Yeah, and I think SKT kind of think of the game in a whole bunch of trades, and I think LS also thinks of it this way, where it's like chess, where SKT, in that situation, they treated FLICKR like a pawn, and they got a knight in return because they got that turret on the bottom side of the
I'm just
map.
slightly scared that if something like that happens again, they can just lose Baron.
Yeah. At some point, you have to value the victor
they
damage.
had killed MLXG, so it was completely fine, right?
Yeah. But like when the fight happened, yeah, I guess he knew that MLXG gonna die. It's just like strange for me that he didn't like go with the team and try to kill MLXG and just keep with them, and instead he went there and like fighting Xiaohu 1v1.
Yeah, I think it's better to keep the Vladimir by himself as opposed to in your team.
I guess, yeah.
If you get his ghost too, which he did use, I believe, right?
Yeah, I guess like
he
trading the Victor body for the Vladimir body in the team fight is not that bad.
It's not awful.
So I want to hit another Twitter question while we have a brief pause here as RNG looks to potentially set up around the Baron. We had one earlier today from Scrubs STC, which is, why do they never ban out Bang's Ezreal when he's known for it? Bang, of course, one of the many prolific Ezreal players of the tournament. You can see 2-0 already off to a good start in this game.
Well, we don't know like what the plan of RNG. I mean, we know the plan of RNG this game. They wanted to ban Bangi out, and now we see like Bangi playing Lee Sin. And we can understand that his Lee Sin is not as flashy, and I mean he does his job, but at the same time Lee Sin doesn't really scale that well compared to other champs, and I mean that's why you don't have enough bans to ban them all.
2 summoners burn there in the end, and maybe you're right, just not enough bans to ban away the 80 carry. Can you afford to ban Ezreal? We did see a number of teams do it.
I feel like if you ban Ezreal, SKT might first pick Jhin at that point, and then like Jhin, Caitlyn, and Ezreal are all taken away, and Uzi's knocked down onto Lucian, I guess? It's not that bad?
Yeah, Lucian probably.
Yeah.
He's the choice.
Yeah, you probably take Karma. So, I don't know. You get him off of Ezreal, he'll pick Lucian. Jhin is still good for Bang.
We can see really good vision of SKT towards the bot side, because RNG is there focusing around Baron, and Duke is doing his own thing. I think at one point of the game he can even like start split pushing.
Yeah, and that's the thing here as well, is SKT have actually done this beautifully. This has actually been
engaged in the mid lane.
A crazy game to watch, because SKT now have an advantage in CS in every single one of their lanes across the board. So Duke has been able to split push, get himself like a 10 CS lead, 14. It's still really good for him in a bad situation, and they've been able to stall the game out, and they've got Vision back on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, we can see like 3K
gold.
gold. Now it's
even.
equal.
It's like very close.
I mean, at 33 minutes, a 700 gold lead just is not a difference. Mountain Drakes, Infernal Drakes may be something for RNG in their favor, but honestly, things look pretty grim. They had a massive lead, but SKT has just been forcing their way back.
I think Flash Wolves actually did better job than RNG in terms of that, because I mean, you can still like put the random ward there, you know, FLICKR is split pushing and stuff. He's Victor after all, and he used his ghost before. Like, put the ward there, TP Looper, and have Mata and Uzi coming already, so they can like set up the Jhin ult, and like Mata supporting him and MLXG being there. And like, if you kill FLICKR, he's their powerhouse right now, or like one of the powerhouses, because Bang has a lot of CS too. And then you can probably pressure Baron off that kill. But they never did anything. They are not doing anything proactive, and SKT just have the better lane assignment and better like understanding what they want to do, and they're doing well.
When I look at the way that Looper's been playing in this team composition, he's been getting turrets, he's been pressing an advantage, but I feel like that advantage is completely gone, and that even 10 minutes ago, he should have been mid with the team, helping Siege because he's part of that composition. The Siege, the Zyra route as well. They don't have the wave clear to really contest FLICKR on Victor. So instead, you kind of have to just go for poke in mid lane, try to get an ARAM going.
Yeah, RNG are trying to play the Chinese style where they all like come in and try to like dive and go.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they have Zyra and Jace. It
You don't
just
have
doesn't
to.
work.
Yeah.
He even like played Jace like he's Maokai. He like flashed into 5 people.
Oh, GP coming in here.
He's going after Uzi, is who his original target was.
It's like an aggressive move there. They are going to burn their TP, so that is TP advantage over to Looper. SKT now poising around the Baron, trying to take down some vision.
Well, also now you poise around the Baron, you deny all vision. Looper on the bottom side of the map, you try to force out his teleport before he can get that bottom turret. So it may even be a Baron start as a bait to at least just get the summoner spell and pull off.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
SKT,
no,
Poppy
dude.
is moving back because Jace
Yeah.
just takes turrets too fast. And at this point, because you don't have TP, it's really hard for SKT because
Yeah, now they can't.
Jace can probably still beat Poppy 1v1, so he will start chunking the turret, and if you move people there, then he has TP or they can like go for Baron.
Yeah. It was one of those two where you either start the Baron or you put the Poppy in the bottom, and now you kind of risk a 5-on-4. But I actually think that SKT made the right choice and I made the wrong one because Jace teleport isn't that effective. It's like Jace TP versus like Kennen or Poppy TP. It's like,
I mean, Jace TPs into something like Victor, he just gets one shot.
yeah, gravity field on top of it.
The thing I don't understand is Looper is like, I'm not sure if he can actually beat Poppy 1v1 because there is a chance he cannot. That's why he doesn't go that aggressive on the side. And Poppy is doing whatever she wants.
Dang, he caught up. Snare not going to connect.
Kind of a bad ulti there from Zyra. They're using things way too aggressively.
Oh, he goes in. MLFG now set to fall. Curtain call instantly canceled.
Yeah, so RNG aren't playing their comp correctly. They're trying to force things, and they're a poke and disengage composition that's supposed to let you run into them and then do things like the Zyra ulti to, you know, if like what happened to the Poppy runs into your team and then you Zyra ulti the backline away, you always get to focus on the Poppy and like burst him down and section off the rest of the team or fall into a poke pattern beforehand. And RNG just aren't doing that. They're just kind of playing the Chinese style.
Yeah, that's the problem. They're like Chinese team playing the Chinese style with a poke composition with a disengage. It's just like, you just put 5 people together, you're just like poking them, and you make SKT go into you, and then you use Zyra as a counter engage. Instead, they're like setting up the vision, trying to go for peaks. Zyra like flash roots into you, Jace flash hammer forms. I mean, come on, just like play your setup properly, or at least try to set up split push because Jace was beating Poppy 1v1. He could have got turrets by himself. Just like don't do anything and let Jace do his thing.
Well, that's a good question because we've got one coming in from Matt Wenzel. Is it better for RNG to keep playing aggressive or to play safe rather, or not to lose in the game? SKT seems to be able to punish both.
It's not about like playing aggressive. I would say it's more about playing smart. I mean, playing aggressive is fine.
Like, this is smart right here.
Yeah,
This is super smart.
There he goes.
Yeah, it's because you know you had teleport advantage. Looper shoves bottom, TP's in. You have a 5-on-4. So best case scenario, you get the Baron and you walk out. Worst case scenario, oh no, we had to take a 5-on-4 fight.
Also,
like,
they were really good at denying vision. They came from the top side while the vision was around mid for SKT.
yeah. Also, I think this is super good for RNG because of the fact that their composition, you get to the objective first. The enemy team has to run into you, and then Zyra, just her stock rises. You get to play your composition the way that it's meant to be
Victor
played.
all going down. Mata's in trouble, though. He gets stunned and popped immediately. Now RNG take the fight. Looper comes over the wall, tries to assassinate Bang. Vladimir is on the way, but he may be too little too late. Shutdown, though. Deathfire Touch cleans that up. Shock Blast over the wall. Uzi's going off. Deathfire Touch not going to look like be enough.
Did they keep Dragon Aggro? It was at 3K.
Yeah, yes.
Exactly. That's yeah. That could be the
Vladimir, it's just like SKT did a smart thing because RNG didn't expect the Dragon at all. Vladimir was going top lane. They were setting up their 1-3-1. I think a lot of people recalled from RNG. Just the Baron recall, they're just too fast. And Rek'Sai, I think, I'm not sure if he had ult or not, or like he just went there.
I think he used it.
Yeah.
He did not. Yeah, he did not. It looks like MLFG was already there, already ready. Looks like he walked down. And also that cooldown is hilariously short.
He used it to get to the Baron.
Yeah, so he just walked there, maybe didn't recall, was clearing like wolves. And then he's like, maybe they're doing Dragon. Gotta check.
Yep.
But yeah, that was smart from SKT, but at the same time, a FLICKR got rooted by Mata, which made the fight pretty hard.
I actually think the better play for SKT is try to deny vision of that area and then get them as they try to funnel in, because I don't think they even have vision of that area. I don't think they have
but
control.
the problem is MLXG can just check and run away, so if he sees that they're not doing Dragon, he will just not commit.
Yeah,
Two members of SKT on the top side, but they're now on the bottom.
I feel like you could kill MLXG though, because the Poppy W stopping Rek'Sai, like I think you have enough, and like you saw how late Xiaohu was to that.
Yeah, but the problem is you need to commit to start the dragon.
Yeah.
Like, because if you don't start I mean, he will just like back out or something. You can try, but we're gonna see he's pretty tanky.
Yeah, you're right.
And the problem is if they actually use all the resources on him, then I mean RNG can still turn it around. You won't run into Zyra, she will just one-shot you.
Xiaohu now pushing out. We did see Duke get picked off there, and just a clarification for anyone watching, we're not going to have replays for the rest of the game, unfortunately, due to some technical issues, so we won't get to see that one again, but we will, keep you informed as we move forward, hoping to get that solved. Oh,
he doesn't have anybody nearby.
Yeah. Bangy's upset.
Yeah.
Tried to break the tunnel, didn't break the tunnel.
This is exactly how they should have played it before. Like, Jace's position here, EQ, try to land, get some damage on turret. Oh, it goes down really fast because you have 2 Mountain Drakes.
And Infernal. You basically have 3 Mountain Drakes.
Hey!
Yeah, they're like, actually it may be worth before. Maybe we should have tried it at 20 minutes instead of 40.
Alex, you're so critical of RNG's playstyle.
I mean, I'm not critical, just like...
They're winning, right? But
yeah, they're winning. It's just like the way the Chinese team plays is always fun to watch. And that's why LPL is so chaotic. Because no matter what kind of comp they pick, they always go for the team fights, brawls. They're Zyras, instead of like counter engage, they just flash in. They try to one-shot you. And I mean, I like his build. He's going my build, like Magic Pen Boots, Leandris, Rylai's. That's a solid.
I got autofilled to support Alex each special.
Pretty much.
Oh, Freak is having a field day because he plays Brand Zyra even before Worlds happened, and now he's like, my meta's it's real.
Alive and well. The MLXG may not be. Guardian Angel's still up. They're going to knock up Duke. Loopers on the backside, and Curtain Call to give support, but the hammer whiffs.
Yep.
Mana now up. Here comes the aggressive Zyra you've been waiting for, boys, and the snare does manage to connect. There's the chain. They're going to keep him in there. That's a lot of damage onto Duke.
I told you Zyra gonna kill Poppy.
Yeah, where is the Vladimir again?
I am. Vladimir is just like, he's coming.
All right. It's like, I'm on my way, guys!
He's like half HP too from somewhere.
Yeah.
So something happened.
Oh, double snare.
I really like the way RNG play in terms of watching because it's very fun, but it's not methodical at all.
No.
I think
it's not boring.
It's not boring though.
This does segue into a Twitter question we got from Eric. I don't know how to pronounce that O. So I'm going to say Hoiby. Eric Hoiby. Iric. Oh man, I butchered your name. Whatever. We will see more teams finding their own style rather than following the Korean meta because of Albus Nox. Do you think it's an Albus Nox thing?
No. I think Albus Nox actually are a good macro and methodical team. It's just like their team plays much better than the teams they were fielding against the group. I think there is a chance their macro is better than H2K. So, but the problem, like overall, if we're talking about that game that's gonna be, H2K are not known for their macro. They're just winning all their lanes super hard all the time. So we'll see how it's gonna go. But yeah, I think Albus Nox, they have their pocket picks and they have their like special play style, and that makes it hard to play. Their like macro decisions are actually pretty good.
Yeah, when he says style, I don't know if he means like they're gonna stick to their picks.
Yeah.
Because that's what Albus Nox have done. They haven't really had a stylistic difference from a lot of teams, except that they pick heavily winning lanes as much as they can with stuff like brand support, or they like try to kill you. That's kind of the style, but like H2K win lanes even harder, and that's kind of their style. And it's funny because like when we say style, it's kind of like your team's strength, but also their weakness.
Yeah, it's like style. What do they mean? Macro? All right. I mean, some teams play to macro, some teams don't have that much macro. Is it the style that RNG just like to go in and go ham? I guess it's style.
It's their style.
Stylish.
It's their weakness in this game for sure.
They do style on people, although right now FLICKR is styling on Xiaohu.
I mean, it's weakness, but they got the burn. They're doing their best.
They don't manage to break an inhibitor, however, so it still does not feel like it's completely RNG favored.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is 80k to 73. I mean, that 7k at this point, it's not that much.
Yeah, because like Poppy 6 items.
Yeah,
right?
Ezreal like 6 items, Victor 6 items. I mean, there are like 6 items everywhere.
Yeah.
And it comes down to the team comps, and I don't know who I even favor here.
Oh, Curtain Call comes out. We might find out who to favor.
It really depends on if Xiaohu can get in and get a good Vladimir scenario, or you have the Victor like have access to the back line. I actually think this is still Looper favored. With the Bloodthirster now, he can definitely trade very heavily.
Poppy, unfortunately, just not enough damage to trade through all that lifesteal.
Yeah, but Jace couldn't even break the shield too, so it's like, I mean, eventually Jace gonna win. It just takes some time, some long time.
Stack up the Black Cleaver.
Stack Black Cleaver.
Does he have the 2 minutes necessary to kill the Poppy, or the 30 seconds?
Yeah, just like where the whole team can come back there while he's killing. But yeah, I don't know. This game is just like, For SKD, it's like Bank trying to 1v9 most of the time, while the team is trying to do something. I mean, they're doing really good thing about like playing from behind.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's really hard for SKD to do anything against RNG comp proactively.
So RNG right here, if they're trying to be proactive, you put Looper bot side, Duke has to come to the top. Mata!
Gonna get popped.
That's big. Yeah.
That's an unfortunate recall on a ward.
Yeah.
He almost finished it too.
So now, Faker's going to push out top side. Might be a Baron attempt from SKT, but now Duke has to run to the bottom side before Looper can get to this turret and take it down.
I don't think SKT gonna attempt for the Baron. I think they will try to clear the vision because the support is dead, so they cannot really put their wards.
Yeah.
It's only on Rek'Sai, but I mean, it has only 2 wards.
And keep in mind, too, of course, Duke's TP is just now coming off cooldown, and additionally, RNG had 3 blue trinkets up and available, so taking the Baron would be a rather large risk. But Banky maybe look for the setup. Does not
I mean, he doesn't have an ult, so he cannot do much.
They just let Faker get all the way to the top side of the map. He actually doesn't have too much coverage in some blind areas.
Yeah, but because of how deep Faker is, he sees the Rek'Sai, so they can go for Baron, but MLXG understands it. He just runs to the Faker, gets chunked, but he can get the vision and understand that they're doing the Baron.
And Looper running.
That's a lot of damage. Mortal reminder. This is bot lane fight. Looks like no one's taking advantage.
But RNG stole it out, and now Mata is back.
Dang. In trouble. Xiaohu to the side. Faker. Not what you want. Snare comes out. Xiaohu's going to get the kill in the end, and Uzi's now running in. Duke makes his way to the team fight, but Looper does not burn TP. He decides to take the long way around, and he's suddenly on the backside. Jace flank.
Yep.
Down he goes. This is a massive fight for RNG and a beautiful flank from Looper.
That's quite unfortunate.
Yeah, I actually think if you're RNG, you try to break the base before doing Baron, because that's the bigger problem
I think
here.
if you're RNG, you can even try to finish. It's 40 seconds.
Oh yeah,
for
40
people.
seconds, yeah. It's 46 minutes in.
I know, we got lost of track. There's a lot of stuff happening.
Just take it and go.
RNG are playing this game at 46 minutes like it's 10 minutes or something. They're still diving, running in, and they're doing their way.
They haven't changed. Never changed.
They don't care what kind of comp they play. It's just they're playing to win.
Absolutely set. I mean, game 1 going to RNG. This is an insane change of pace from what we expected the matchup, but they took control early. But Bang still wants to prove himself the better 80 carry here, and will in the end get the 1v1.
This is going to be spicy moving forward because Uzi, I mean, he's made the finals twice, lost once to Faker. It's like that could be the revenge. It could be really good.
I mean, it's just strange that they first pick Karma and they just lose the lane that hard. It's just, I mean, there is Zyra still. You can pick that.
Like,
okay, so how did this happen? Let's talk about what went right for RNG and what went wrong coming in here for SKT.
The bottom lane, like Alex was talking about, they lost the bottom lane. It wasn't even like a gank or anything like that. They got pushed out. Bottom lane turret goes down, and then RNG did some of the cleanest lane assignments that I've seen in the tournament, especially from RNG, and got rid of all the topside vision. They were able to put Looper on the bottom side. They went for a 1-3-1. Sure, they didn't like group up and afterwards and make that 5-man push in mid or anything like that to get that turret, and that's why the game was so stalled out. But I think that their lane assignments were really good. They didn't get caught out at all, I believe, like throughout that entire game in like really awkward positions in the 1-3-1.
Yeah, I'd say for the most part, obviously there were a few mistakes there, but it feels like they built themselves lead. They gave it up there for a little bit, but still managed to find 1 or 2 opportunities to make maybe too aggressive decisions in certain lights, but it ends up paying off for them in the end.
Yeah, we can see that actually Vladimir pick paid off. Even though Xiaohu didn't have the spectacular game, he did what he needed to do. He didn't feed, he didn't like fall behind or anything. Even though Faker getting blue buffs, getting all the pressure, getting all the vision around mid lane, I mean, what can you do against Vladimir? If they picked Aurelion Sol, I mean, it's in his hands to win, but it's in his hands to lose, and they didn't want to risk it. And they just like, we're just gonna pick winning side lanes, and we're gonna win the side lanes, and that's what they did.
And I think, of course, one of the big surprises there was Looper finding the solo kill on Duke on the top side of the map, that aggressive play, and that early lead from the Jace felt like it was a huge part of the RNG win.
Yeah, that's how they can 1-3-1 and not have to worry so much about their Jace, because they know he has a large advantage. He gets another kill there, and I believe it's like two deaths really early on for Duke, where he's kind of out of the game and really just has to farm up. And then after that, it's like Looper, you know, he can make some bloopers and like flash in, but this is only death of the game. Is that just that one where he jumped in? So he played really cleanly, and I think that advantage definitely helped him and helped the entire team have that strategy of the 1-3-1 work.
Well, it was interesting because we were talking to Ziv yesterday in the cast room when we were off broadcast about like the insane priority we're seeing on Jace and how it was so hard for teams to execute. And this feels like RNG are one of the first teams that we've seen, especially after the Cloud9 series yesterday, who were really comfortable utilizing this Jace pick, and the priority made sense for this team this time around, whereas it really hasn't for a lot of the other teams in this tournament.
I mean, I guess it comes down to the team comps because a lot of people pick Jace top, but then at the same time they have like, I don't know, control mage mid. While Vladimir, he actually comes down as a tank that was initially the top laner. So Zhao Hu did everything the top laner did. He runs into 5 people, almost suicides, doesn't die, like pulls it out, stalls out enemies.
Soaks damage.
Yeah, he does like everything as top laner does. So Jace can do everything that control mage does, but at the same time, it's a winning lane for top. It's a good lane for mid. And then, I mean, bot lane, they just got the tower at like 7 minutes or something. We didn't even see how that happened.
I just think the lesson here that we've learned from Alex is, as the top laner, run into 5 people and almost die. Don't die, but almost die. But up next on the Player Experience stream, Gate joins us as we take a trip into the bottom lane for the matchup between Bang and Uzi. For now, though, we'll send you back to the mainstream for an Analyst S breakdown of the surprising RNG win.
Then it's a quick 3-0. So I think they definitely make some adjustments now. The Zyra is essentially the surprise that RNG threw at them, as well as some of the stuff they did in the mid game.
The only thing I would challenge in that analysis is that no matter whether it's FLICKR or not, if you play a Victor early game, the early game 1-6, which obviously we need to specify, is going to be lost. Later on, obviously, FLICKR had that wave clear, which was a major reason why they got back into the game. But yeah, Jace, power pick if he starts snowballing, and this is why we have so many questions around this pick, because when he loses hard. In the nature of that matchup, when he gets smashed versus armor, everyone's like, why pick Jace?
We had that
if
one
only
funny
Hanser
moment
didn't pick Jace.
when he hits the second tier turret, we're like, that's why he picked Jace. It's just a video of him taking 75% of a turret's health in 6 seconds.
Yeah, it's
he pushes
absolutely
like no one else.
Right, and of course, with that first kill going on to Looper, it kind of unlocked RNG to really dictate the rest of the game. And this is where I want to jump into our first replay here. Mid lane gank by the bot lane duo translates into a 1-3-1.
So the focus here is not on the gank, guys, but something we want to highlight from the Descon is look at the lane assignments right after this gank. So we have Mana flashing in. He's going to get Faker's flash and Ghost on cooldown. And then later on, RNG is going to do the following. They're going to put the Zyra, Rek'Sai, Jhin in the mid lane versus FLICKR, which means he is playing back versus Rek'Sai Q, Jhin W, he's under pressure. They're going to put the Jace in the bot lane, who has a really good 1v1 versus Ezreal, and then they send Vladimir to the top lane against the Poppy, who just bought armor.
Yeah,
this doesn't result in much, but it's a 20-second window where they can then take advantage of.
Exactly, and the window happens because everyone in SKT then says, what is RNG doing? We actually have to match this. They're switching to a 1-3-1. 11 minutes into the game, and it didn't seem like they'd done much of that, but then eventually they got a 2v2 in the top lane, which allowed them to teleport into that lane with the Jace and get another kill. So RNG not only brought a little bit of a different champ select, but that strategy they pulled off between the 11 and 20 minute marks definitely caught SKT off guard.
And the reason why you kind of heard Spawn talking about the surprise factor is it was a multi-step plan. You saw the wards down to bring up the safe 1-3-1. RNG have definitely gone for what you would call the very overly risky plays in the regular season in China. But the multi-step plan orchestrated there is the sort of thing that SKT are known for. And it's really good to see because it's something that they're going to need to definitely bring back in this series.
Yeah, it's something that gets so easily spotted when you're watching a whole game, but those particular lane assignments just made so much sense. You know, the magic damage into the armor, it just forces your enemy to make a recall. Also, you center your support and your jungle in the mid lane very early. They can move into the enemy jungle, you know, place some wards down. They did eventually switch back, Jet, from the 1-3-1 because they went for that play in the top lane. I believe we have the second replay right there. It's actually super smart setup because we were wondering why are they not sticking to the 1-3-1 because RNG was, again, one step ahead of us.
Right, let's take a look at this adaptation made by RNG, brought to you by Acer from that 1-3-1, setting up a sweet TP gank here in the top lane.
Yeah, I jumped the gun and talked about this earlier, but when they matched up with the 2v2 in the top lane, it's an easy recall for Looper. He can buy items, and they have the ward there as they're getting pushed in the top lane. So it's actually a pretty easy conversion. A nice start there by Uzi to get the root onto Bang early, and there's not too much they can do to escape here. They throw in the ultimate from the Jhin, land a few shots onto Wolf, get that kill, and this then transitions to the turret. Also, what is Duke doing completing that TP?
And, you know, talking about Duke, you know, he was playing the Jace, and his KDA on those Jace games, it wasn't wonderful. There was a 0-4-5 game there where he was kind of just being ganked by 4 members while the rest of his team were winning. The thing about Duke that's always been true of him, whether he was on Najin, when he was on SKT, he's not Marin. He's not a fantastic teleport user. And when you pick Poppy, especially into Jace, you're sacking lane. You're not expecting to win or get kills. We saw some of those from Cuve yesterday. That was certainly not the norm. You need to make the teleports work. And that was one example of a teleport that didn't work. We saw another one where he tried to catch off MLXG on Rek'Sai. That was just never going to work. The spotlight was on Duke and his teleport play, and he let his team down.
And I'm so pleasantly surprised by RNG because one of the critics we have very often of them is that they don't have macro. And they showed in the 10 to 20 minute mark 2 plays that were obviously set up very well. Like it all tied together when they did the lane assignments. This gank was pre-planned. That ward was there. And then even going back to the early phase of the game, they had the Zyra push very early on. They had their jungler group. They took that first tier 1 tower, and then they kept changing up the map, isolating outer turrets over and over, allowing these Jace to start snowballing. So this was such a smart play by RNG, and we're not used to seeing that. And this makes the series much more interesting.
It makes it much more interesting, but while they made some good moves in the early game, that did not mean that this game came easy for them. The ultimate victory took a while to get to, culminating in our game-winning team fight, but this was not before SKT made a couple very good moves themselves to even up the gold.
Because coming into this replay, SKT had really stalled out the game. We're like, okay, another late game, Bang's gonna take it over. But then we see this big fight that really changed the course of things.
Xiaohu had just completed death cap before this fight as well, so him being able to get the angle while SKT was trapped in River is a big miss. And yes, Duke could have knocked back Uzi, but that wasn't gonna stop Lupa from coming in the backside of this fight. This was a well-orchestrated fight by RNG to close out the game.
Again, they push out, they leave some D-Vision, and they always find good TP wards for Looper, and Looper is actually a top laner that is really good at those teleports, in my opinion. I have more of a utility vibe with him, so it was really nice to see that he could carry. But we have to mention the kind of late game macro, the closing ability of RNG was still lacking. They didn't go for deep vision when that tier 1 tower was still alive, and they had a hard time fighting against FLICKR's wave clear.
And I think you see that in the gold graph right there. They had the giant lead at 25 minutes. That evaporated by 37 minutes, and that's actually when you expected SKT to come back, but the double Mountain Drake, the Infernal, the poor positioning by Duke, RNG was able to extend their leading win.
You've always asked analysts, how do you beat SK Telecom T1? And the story's actually always been the same. Take it to them in the early game, get a big lead, and also, if you can find a way to have a better late game team fighting against a team that can pull it to late, those are your 2 options. RNG did both.
I mean, the damage statistics as well, though, were very interesting because both FLICKR and Bang, they're topping the charts, of course, while Poppy is expected to take a back seat, whereas RNG had a bit more of an even, cut for their team.
Yeah, and I like the even spread, and I think you can even simplify the 2 ways you try to beat SKT. You either attack FLICKR or you play around FLICKR. And in a sense, RNG did a small amount of both. They mostly played around him by taking both the side lanes and focusing on that early. But they also attacked him occasionally in the team fights by trying to use that extended advantage on him.
Yeah,
I think, go for it.
Yeah, we just shouldn't put all the blame on Duke, though, because there was that one phase in the early game where FLICKR went for a kill attempt on Mata. Mata used Flash, but then he got picked out. It's that kind of momentum that you can't afford to lose if you're SKT. They did a phenomenal job punishing the lack of warding from RNG, though. The fact that they got it back to even is worrisome for RNG farther in this series, but it's still like RNG with that Baron call closed it.
And I definitely don't think it's all Duke's fault. You look at the lead at the beginning, that was the 2v2 and 2v3 in the bottom lane that went going. And we talk about the jungler being a weak spot for him. Bengi was a non-factor on Lee Sin, not to mention blind picking Lee Sin into Rek'Sai when he's available. Not good choices there in the draft phase or even in the game.
And we'll discuss this on the other side of the break, but Blank will be subbing in for Bangy. Now the quarterfinal clash between SKT and Royal Never Give Up continues right after this break.
We're going to bring you this best-of-5 quarterfinal between LCK's SK Telecom and LPL's Royal Never Give Up. Hold that door. Duke's in trouble. 100 HP. Lupa solo kills. Gone are the days, my arse.
Oh, this is good. This is
now
really
they're going for it. Look at the minimap. SKT are nowhere near.
Just finish it.
Dragons in the pit. RNG, they've stolen it. They've snuck it. They've got Baron. And Royal Never Give Up strike down the defending world champions.
Dare to be different. Revel in the impossible. Introducing a little anarchy. Disrupting the natural order. Because a hero lies in all of us. Nothing is beyond your reach. Claim your victory and go forth to conquer new worlds.